Guys, welcome to Fish Hook. I'm Charles. Today I want to do a product review. I want to talk about one of my favorite appliances I have bought in a long time is a dehydrator. I did an earlier video on a review on a Nesco FD79. It has been excellent to use, and that's only 13.5-inch diameter. This one is the big brother to it. It's the Nesco Garden Master model FD1040. I'm telling you, this was the brute I should have got the first time. 15.5-inch diameter, top motor just like the other one, and got a handy handle. And this is how the unit will come in the box. It's packaged very well too, I will say that. This is it. Probably weighs about 3 pounds. I love this. Pick it right up. Real nice. They give you an ample cord. You got a 4-foot cord, 4.5-foot cord, no problem. What I like about this, the same thing with the FD79, you've got automatic controls. First, you got start and stop, digital. The automatic is just on the shut off, not on starting. You got a dual one here. You press once for time, up or down, in 15-minute intervals. Hit it again, the temperature will show up the lowest setting, which is 95 degrees, and then you can go all the way up to 160. On here are just guidelines. They're minimum guidelines, so you don't want to go below. You can go over from 95 degrees to 105, 135, and 160. Some suggested uses at those temperatures. You have to use this. The same rule applies to the FD79, the smaller one, with a minimum of 4 trays. This gives out a lot of heat, so in order for it to circulate properly, probably not overheat the motor and damage it or ruin your food, they want 4 trays in it at all time, irregardless of how many trays you're using, one or all of them. Now, saying that, let me show you what these trays are made out of. They're interlocking. This is the tray. This particular one, like I said, is 15.5-inch diameter. If you'll notice, there's slots here. This is where the food goes, but there's slots here. And they have little tips that come out that they're rings and they slide in, and this way you can't accidentally push it and it all falls apart like dominoes. They lock into place. There's movement, but they lock in, and it's just air anyway. Anyway, these things work fabulous. They only go one way in here. I do my beef jerky right on this after I pat it dry. These are all in the procedures and the information. They give you a really nice book, and it tells you some stuff. Those are just guidelines. You're the chef. You're the end user. You're going to make it the way you want it. And you cook the way you like to cook. So you can do a lot of big stuff, vegetables and stuff on here that are big. It works great. A lot of airflow going right through. Now, it came with 2 of these. This is a fruit roll-up tray, as they refer to it. And if you could tell, it's lipped roughly about 1/4 inch, keeping your liquids or soups or macaroni stuff that you with a spatula, you're going to smooth it all out, or a fruit roll-up, you're going to put different sauces here, because they recommend you with a fruit roll-up, if that's what you want to make, put it in the blender. So your puree stuff, you just pour that gravy out, just smooth it all out with a little baking trowel, and it works beautiful. Works beautiful. So you want to keep it at 3/8 of an inch. 1/4 inch, you're pushing it just a little less. It's better, it's quicker, and more thorough dehydration. And all dehydration means removing dehydration. What is hydration? Water, the moisture content. Pull it out. If you pull it out, you will in effect reduce the weight by somewhere from 60 to 80% of the food, and you'll see the net weight without moisture. It's an eye-opener, I gotta say that. This particular model only came with one of these and one of these, and they call this like a cleaner screen. But this goes great over this because you've got big gaps here. Put this on it, And it further stops stuff that you might, smaller stuff, I don't know, maybe really small pieces of food and stuff, you don't want it to go through, and you want as much airflow. Put one of these on top of it. All of these are dishwasher proof. None of these things are rated to go through a full cycle in the dishwasher. When it comes to the drying cycle, make sure you pull it out. Once they does the rinse, it washes and rinses, pull it out. Don't let them dry, because that heating element in there is extremely hot. Could very well melt this, depending on what your position is, and they do want it on the top rack. Just be really careful. If you mess it up, I bought 4 extra trays, and all the links to everything that I bought will be in below the video. But I bought extra trays. I knew ahead of time. I got so experienced with the FD79. I made this a tower of 8. This is expandable, I believe, to 12. Somewhere I read it was more, but I've got to find it in here. But anyway, nevertheless, you get a really cool little booklet. It's strictly a guide. And in there, let me see, it doesn't, oh, I'm sorry, this is expandable to 20. And this comes with a 1,000-watt motor versus 600-watt in everybody else's. I think this is probably the most strongest motor on the market right now. But, so you can expand up to 20. I've only did it at 8, so 20 would be like this high. It's just mind-boggling that you can evenly dehydrate. I've done everything from fruit roll-ups, salmon jerky, and you guys hopefully have seen the video. I did it on that, on my other Sedona Supreme from TriBest. I've done salmon jerky on this as well. Subsequent to using that, I did it on here. It came out beautiful. Really, I'm trying to look for a fault. All this time I'm trying to say, well, is there anything they could have improved? They've captured everything pretty well. It's not like you're building a car, but it's really well put together, very user-friendly, very easy, and man, you could do a million things with this. It's not just for people that do canning, which is really popular. A lot of homemakers out there that do this, and they leftover foods from dinner. If you don't, instead of throwing away, say, the spaghetti and meatballs, bust up the meatballs, get them like ground beef, put them in a fruit roll-up or in one of the cleaner screens there, dehydrated, put it in a vacuum seal bag, vacuum seal it real good, and then dump it in the freezer. You can get years out of that, and bring it out, and then you rehydrate it. And I want to go over with the scale how the proper way is to rehydrate. But you've got all kinds of guides here, from drying fish, drying cooked meat, drying jerky, vegetable drying guidelines. Like, for example, on guidelines, and they're very generous with these guidelines. It's up to you at how you want to eat your dehydrated fruit. Some people want it like, I do apple chips, and I make them like chips. They're thin. I leave the skins on. I use a lot of Gala apples because they're extremely sweet. They snap. I like that. I'd rather chew on that. Now, some people want a little softer, so that means you adjust your drying time down. So, like, for example, if let's say artichoke here, 6 to 12 hours. That's a pretty big gap. All depends on how you like it. I've had people do eggplant and make eggplant chips raw. That was beautiful. You can do it with machines like this. One thing I will tell you, that while you're dehydrating, if you want to check, say you're on an 8-hour cycle and about 5.5 hours into it, you want to check it, you can either do stop temporarily, it'll stop the timer, you won't lose any of your elapsed time, or you can just pick it up, it'll still blow, but then your timer will be going on. So hit this, stops the timer, and then you can check your meat or food, and for dryness, if it's acceptable at that time, you can shut it off. That's the beauty of this. Everything that's on here, fruits and vegetables, for example, here they recommend at 135 degrees. I did them as much as 145. You could even go more and you dry them out faster, but you just got to play with it. Nuts and seeds are recommended at 105 minimum temperature. Remember, these temperatures are to kill bacteria. Okay? Herbs and spices, 95, and then fish, meats, and jerky, everything 160, the maximum it could put out. So you won't go wrong if you go a little longer. The longer you go, especially with meats, with jerky, it's going to get tough as nails. So you want to see where that happy medium is. Some people like it a little more chewy. Others want it a little more harder, where you're going to gnaw on it and really chew on the jerky. I like it right in the middle. I like it a little bit soft, and I cut them up in little pieces and put them in like that. So all you do is pop them in the mouth. You don't have to rip them apart, and you know, sometimes it hurts your teeth. Now, some of the other features are it has a 1,000-watt motor, and it's a 2,400 RPM, so it is a heavy-duty motor. The air will blow through here and go down through here. If you're just laying, say you're laying jerky out on these plastic things, it's no problem. You'll pat your meat, you'll dry off as much as you can with paper towels, because the meat should have already absorbed the marinade, and lay it all on here. It works beautiful. You have to have a minimum of 4 of these in place for this motor to work. Otherwise, I'm guessing you're going to overheat the motor. It has to have enough air, enough CFM to keep it going. It's a principle, same thing in air conditioning, which that's my business. But these all stack one on top of the other. I bought extra ones with me. Now, some of the extra ones, they were a little different design, but they all work. They all lock in together. So you can't, that's a good thing. You can't accidentally push it and it's like dominoes, it'll all come down. Absolutely not. Now, the basic thing that came with this when I bought it, you get one of these sheets. These are a fruit roll-up sheet. If you'll notice, they're lipped and lipped this way, roughly about a 1/4 inch. You don't even want to get near that height. You just put it in here. You can pour your liquids, your sauces, your macaronis, your soups, all kinds of stuff in here. Try to keep it at 3/8 of an inch. I know they say 3/8 to a 1/4. 1/4 is pretty thick. You're going to be dehydrating for quite a while. And I don't want to have uneven spots. So for me, in my experience now, for the past month, I went less, around 3/8 of an inch, even a little less, spread it out. I did meal-sized portions, and it came out beautiful. Came out beautiful, evenly dehydrated. It was great. Now that's all for liquids. Fruit roll-ups were great. When you do fruit roll-ups on this, get a little bit of spray olive oil. You can either give it a little dab of spray or just wet a napkin with olive oil and just lightly glaze it. Wipe it like you're wiping it clean, and I'll give a little oil coat to it so nothing sticks, and it won't adversely affect your food. Now they call these cleaner screens. These are meshes, ultra fine, as you can see. Look at that. It makes it that much more harder for stuff to get through. So if you have smaller stuff like nuts and stuff like that, nuts will get through this. But slap this on there and you trapped everything on here. You know, it works out real good. I also, before, I was so anxious when I used this, before I had extra fruit roll-up trays, I put a fruit roll-up tray on parchment paper, scored it out, and this has already been used. As you can see, it just wrinkled a hair. It still maintained its full form. I cut it a little bit longer so it would curl up and make sure, and over here too, and it just shrunk just a drop. It didn't affect it, and it's still reusable if you wanted to. If not, if you feel it's dirty, it's parchment paper, it's pennies. And this is the non-stick parchment paper. You can buy it at Walmart. It's real cheap. So there's many options. You can do a ton with this thing. I've done beef jerky, I've done fish jerky with this. I've done macaroni and meatballs. I just recently did kale and beans and greens, as they call it in the South. And you could do it. It was a beans and green dish. I used kale. It worked beautiful. I used this, put this down, and I weighed. What I did was I took a baker's scale. I took my bowl, which I wanted to say, what is a hearty meal for one person? Filled it up to what I know I could eat. I eat a hearty meal, especially when you're out there in the woods or hiking all day. You're going to develop quite an appetite. That's what I judge it by when I'm making a determination of how big a bowl to make. So once I measured the weight of the bowl, then in my case the bowl weighed 16 ounces. Then I went ahead and put the contents in. I hit the tare button first. It cleared out the 16 ounces. The next was the net weight, and I ended up putting in 20 ounces. That bowl was full, 20 ounces for a meal of beans and greens. I then took that out and I was able to make one meal out of one of these, spreading it out nice and thin, and it came out, it looked like sand. When it was so dry, it just crumbled all up like sand. It was great. It was real easy to handle. Put it in a food saver bag, a vacuum seal bag, vacuum sealed it because it was all dry and cooled down. Do not vacuum seal hot food. Let it get room temperature, get all the moisture out of it, because remember, it's dehydrating. As it cools off, it's letting off moisture. Put your hand above it, that's steam. Steam is water, it's hot water. That's just evaporating. So we want to get all the evaporation out of the way. It's finally cooled down. Now, put it in a vacuum seal bag, go ahead and seal it up, and you won't have moisture developing, which will make your food go rancid. And you won't get a vacuum seal, and you'll have limited shelf life. The objective here with a dehydrator is to really get long life. You want a long shelf life. Now, the best way to do it is to vacuum seal it. From there, put it in a deep freeze. So I'm planning now, this is August, I'm planning for September, October, all the way through January. I'm gonna have meals made well enough ahead of time in the deep freeze. All I gotta do is pull out my dinner, my lunches, and my breakfast, what I want. Then I have, obviously, all of the kind of munchies I carry. That's all vacuum sealed. Chuck it in the backpack, and all I need is a cooking set, a pot, and a ladle to pour it in, and all I need is water. That's it, and I've got a really cool water filter I carry with me. And I could take, and once I exhaust my bottles of water, I always go near running water. I'll go to a stream, filter it out, and I've got water to work with. And that's all you need, and you add it to your thing. Instead of having a big mess cooking, you got dish for this, dish for this. I don't want to mix ingredients. I want to have it all done already and just add hot water and give it 20 to 30 minutes to hydrate. Now, when you hydrate it, you'll want to put, I write on the bags my in ounces, and that, like, I'll put 15 ounces. When I dehydrated the kale and beans, it started off at when it was dehydrated, it went down to 5 ounces from a 20 ounces when it was right out of the pot. So I lost 75% of weight. There's a tremendous drastic reduction. Once I saved one to hydrate. I brought it to work, and I said, I'm going to eat it for lunch. I'm going to test it out because I want to test this and perfect this. This is what you guys want to do. Once you add water in there, I added just enough to cover the stuff in the bowl. I put boiling hot water, gave it 30 minutes to hydrate. It tasted beautiful. At first, I put a little bit too much. I took it out. So now, if it's a 75% reduction, I'm going to come, like in this case, it would have been 15 ounces of water. I'll start with 10, 11, let it hydrate. And if it needs add a little bit more, I'd rather cheat and add than go too much, and then it's a watery dish, like say chili with beans and stuff. That's going to be worthless if it gets real watery. I don't want soup. I want a really thick chili. So to keep it thick, it means not to overhydrate it. So that's the process of rehydrating, and you'll get that down. We'll do some videos on that, and I'll show you, and I'll tell you, and I'll show you how it tastes. It comes out fabulous. If you like this video, man, hit a like. If you're new to the channel and you check this out, thank you so much. Hit the subscribe button. I would love you to be part of the Fish Hook family. We're going to do more product reviews. We've got another one coming up on the TriBest Sedona Supreme. It's a $595 9-level dehydrator. I showed it in the previous video when we did salmon jerky, and I want to do, now that I've used it for about a month, I want to give you guys a review of that and pros and cons. Have not found really no cons. They've thought this well out. It does everything that it's supposed to do, and exceeds my expectations. I'm extremely happy with this. So guys, I will see you on the next one. Thank you.